The Indus cities rose from soil and brick, shaped by hands that knew how to build, but what they built was more than walls. It was a way of life, and within that life, the lines between rich and poor are hard to find. There were no towering palaces, no carved thrones, no grand tombs filled with gold. Instead, house after house, built with the same bricks, the same plans, the same rhythm. This wasn't a world ruled by kings. It was a world ruled by balance. A merchant's home looked much like a potter's. A weaver's courtyard echoed the space of a farmer's. The cities whispered of equality, not the kind declared by law or decree, but the kind etched into every street and doorstep. Uniform housing, standard tools, no monuments to egos or word power. If it existed, was quiet, shared, perhaps, by councils or elders. Those who led without needing to rise above. Children played in alleyways that didn't care about status. Wells served every block, not just the fortunate few. Even public spaces, like the Great Bath, were meant for all. In the Indus Valley, civilization didn't mean hierarchy. It meant harmony. And in that choice, that rare, radical choice, they created a society that still leaves us wondering. Not how they built so much, but how they did it together. They lived without kings, but not without grace. In the Indus Valley, where power was subtle and homes were equal, life still shimmered with detail. In cloth, in color, in ornament, the people wore cotton, light, breathable, hand-woven. A miracle of early agriculture spun into simple tunics, shawls, and wraps. There were no silk robes, no gilded crowns. But look closely, and you'll see beauty. Tiny figurines, carved in terracotta, show women with braided hair, combed and coiled, men with bands across their foreheads, necklaces of beads, agate, carnelian, faience, polished and precise. This was not extravagance, it was expression, an art of the everyday. Bangles lined the arms of both women and men, not as marks of rank, but of identity. Children played with painted toys while wearing amulets around their necks. Even the humble potter may have worn a shell pendant close to his heart. Adornment was not for the elite. It was for everyone, woven into the rhythm of morning chores and evening stories. And through it all, there was care. In how they dressed, how they bathed, how they combed their hair. The Indus people didn't carve empires. They carved time, into beads, into bangles, into rituals of cleanliness and calm. This was not a civilization obsessed with monuments. It was one rooted in the quiet dignity of daily life, and that may be its most lasting beauty. They dressed with care, but they also made with care. In the quiet courtyards and shaded workshops of the Indus Valley, hands moved with precision, shaping more than tools, shaping beauty. This was a culture that spoke through form. Terracotta was everywhere, not crude, not careless, but deliberate. Figurines of women with wide hips and elaborate hair, animals with arched backs and alert stances, bulls, elephants, even unicorn-like creatures, not mythical, but symbolic, perhaps totemic, perhaps spiritual, their meaning still sealed behind undeciphered signs. Stone was carved into amulets and seals, each one etched with symbols and creatures, tiny but exact, as if meant to be held, or worn, or traded. Pottery, too, told quiet stories, curved with grace, painted in fine lines, balanced as if symmetry itself was sacred. Beads were polished until they caught the light. Toys had wheels and moving limbs, not just for play, but for the joy of making something that worked. This was not a world of excess, but of elegance. The Indus artisan didn't sign their work. They didn't need to. Their signature was in the balance, the form, the confidence of a people who knew that civilization is not only built with bricks, but with beauty. They carved, they painted, they shaped clay and stone into beauty, and through it all, they wrote. But not in words we understand. Across the cities of the Indus, from Harappa to De La Vera, we find the same quiet mystery. Small seals, copper plates, fragments of pottery, marked with signs. The Indus script? Roughly 400 unique symbols. Most inscriptions are short, just 4, 5, maybe 6 characters. No long sentences, no flowing text, but they repeat, across space, across time, each mark carefully etched above the image of an animal or object, a bull, a tree, a horned figure. Were these names, titles, trade codes? We don't know. There are no bilingual keys, no Indus to Mesopotamian translations, no alphabet we can compare, no cipher to crack, and yet, something intentional there, standardized, systematic. The same signs appear again and again, even hundreds of kilometers apart, a shared code in a civilization that left no kings, no wars, no boasting epics, just symbols. Perhaps it wasn't about storytelling. Perhaps it was about identity, or ownership, or belief. Whatever they meant, they mattered, because someone took the time to carve them in stone, and that alone is enough to make us listen, even if we still don't understand the words. They carved their symbols in silence. No epic myths, no golden shrines, and yet, there was belief, not the towering temples of other ancient worlds, but something humbler, rooted in earth and water. In the Indus Valley, the sacred did not rise high, it sank deep. Altars built of mud brick, fire pits arranged with care in quiet courtyards, a basin, a flame. A gesture. At the heart of Mohenjo-Daro stood something more, the Great Bath, a monumental tank, sealed tight with bitumen, fed by stone drains and steps that led you down into stillness. It wasn't just a place to wash. It was a place to be changed, perhaps a ritual of cleansing, or a gathering place where water met spirit. The symbols they left behind speak without words. A pipal tree, sacred and sheltering, the swastika, turning in eternal balance. The mother figure, broad-hipped and watchful. Nature was not something to fear. It was something to honor. Through fertility, through fire, through flowing water, no gods have come to us from these cities, no names etched into tablets, but the faith remains, in the calm of their planning, the symmetry of their seals, the reverence with which they built for others, not just for themselves. In the Indus Valley, religion was not an institution, it was an instinct, quiet, circular, enduring. They built with symmetry, they worshipped in silence, but they also laughed. In the Indus Valley, life wasn't all work and ritual. It pulsed with moments of play, quiet joys carved in clay and time. Archaeologists found dice, tiny cubes, with dots etched by hand, balanced and worn at the corners. They fit perfectly in the palm, as if passed from hand to hand for generations. Board games, too, flat slabs with carved grids, stone counters waiting for a player's move. Were they games of strategy, or chance? Perhaps both? Mirrors of the mind, sharpening thought while passing time. Children played with toys shaped like animals, terracotta bulls, rams, birds with spinning heads. Some had wheels, some could roll, some moved when pulled by a string. And then, the oldest game of all, storytelling. A pot painted with a running animal, a carved seal showing a horned figure. Not just images, but imagination. They didn't leave us their songs, but they left us their toys, their games, their moments of joy. Because even in a civilization without monuments or kings, people still played, still told stories, still gathered under trees to pass the hours with laughter. And in those moments, in that leisure, we find something deeply human. The Indus world was not just balanced, it was alive. They played games, they told stories, and unlike many of their ancient neighbors, they did not prepare for war. In the Indus Valley, cities rose without walls. No great fortresses, no garrisons, no armies etched into stone. Across thousands of archaeological finds, not a single battlefield, not a single mass grave. No swords, no armor, no monuments to victory or conquest. Their tools, crafted for farming, building, and trade, not battle. Stone weights, copper blades, terracotta, wheels, the gear of makers, not destroyers. Where other civilizations glorified kings and conquerors, the Indus people chose something different. Cooperation. They poured their energy into trade. Long-distance networks linking them with Mesopotamia, Iran, and Central Asia. Into crafts, beads, pottery, precision tools. Into planning, street grids, drainage, public baths. They built cities designed not to defend against one another, but to function together. What kind of society chooses stability over supremacy? What kind of people leave behind no war stories? Perhaps one that measured greatness not by conquest, but by coexistence. They may not have ruled empires, but they mastered something rarer: peace, sustained, organized, shared. And that, too, is a kind of power. They lived without kings, they didn't build empires, and yet, they were connected, across 1,000 kilometers, from Dolavira in the west to Harappa in the north to Lawful in the south. The Indus Valley Civilization spoke with one voice, not in language, but in pattern. The bricks, same size, same ratio. The weights, balanced to the gram. The seals, same animals, same script, same style. Pottery painted with the same motifs. Homes built with the same layouts. Cities planned with the same logic, and yet there was no capital, no central ruler, no visible chain of command. Still, they agreed. Across rivers, deserts, and plains, they agreed to build a world of order, of balance, of flow. What kind of civilization manages this kind of unity without force? Without conquest? Perhaps they were bound not by a single leader, but by shared beliefs, by values passed down not through command, but through craft, through planning, through ritual. Every seal, every wall, every well, an echo of something shared. A culture that didn't just survive, but stayed coherent. They called no one king, but they built with consensus, and maybe that is their greatest legacy. Not that they spread their culture, but that they agreed to live it together.